Hi everybody, today we are going to paint some expressive feet. This is a follow-up to last week's exercise when we painted expressive hands. I'll skip the drawing part this time because for today I'll be mostly using photographs as references. I found a few pictures online that are both interesting and easy to simplify. All my sketches are already onto the paper. So the first one is a ballet dancer, I believe. So I am beginning with the background. Of course, you can choose any color you like, but here I want to remain consistent across the pieces I'll be painting today. So I'll be using the same set of colors. There will be only 4 colors in total: blue, amber, black, and white. All the acrylic mixes you see today will be created with just these 4. And I'll be limiting myself to a very modest palette also when I bring in the oil pastels. And the reason for this is to simplify things. Once you start adding too many colors or too many elements, it's very easy to lose control of the composition. And we will later compensate the modest palette with expression. For instance, while I'm adding the pastels, I'm not trying to be precise. I am deliberately keeping it loose, and that's the point. If I cannot draw with perfect accuracy, then why not make something expressive out of it? Here, I've outlined the composition with a single color, not a naturalistic one, and added just 2 highlights, one dark and one light. Remember, you can only apply the pastels once the acrylics are completely dry, but that usually takes just 4 to 6 minutes, depending on how wet the paint is. And once dry, I smudge everything together. Then it's only a matter of adding a few more details, and that's it. I have to be careful with the tools because I have a tendency to snake in an extra one. But luckily, that's something that is easily corrected afterwards. Okay. Now, on to the next piece. Once again, I've used a photograph for reference and simplified even more the shapes, applying exactly the same approach as the previous one. A very pale blue for the background, spread evenly with a sponge. And with the oil pastels, I once again began by working around the composition with a bold color, then add highlights with just 2 more, the pinkish tone and this darker brown. Once I smudged everything, I bring in an even darker brown to suggest some more details, but nothing too elaborate. There's no need to be overly precise here. We're aiming for expression, not precision. Now, for the third piece of today, I couldn't find a model in the position I had in mind, so I took a photograph myself. So, yes, this is a kind of a self portrait. But the reason why I am mentioning this is because it is worth remembering. If you ever need a photo reference that you cannot find online or that you would have to pay for, you can always be your own model. So it's that simple. Once again, I spread a thin background layer with a sponge and then I turn to the main subject. I've used acrylics here, but this approach also works with watercolors or wash. Oils too, but those would require more drying time between layers. And again, I'm not focusing on detail, I'm focusing on expression. Even without perfect accuracy, you can still tell exactly what the scene is. It's a man lying on a beach, having the sea and the sky behind him. It's simple like that. So, for our final piece of the day, I've created a composite. I'm painting a couple, which I think is a wonderful way to capture the spirit of a relationship. Okay. It could represent the moment they met or a day when something important happened. You got the idea. In my initial sketch, I had included shoes, but I realized it would be more interesting and more in keeping with the theme if everyone was barefoot. It's also an interesting composition because it works in any orientation. You can hang it vertically or horizontally with either figure above the other. So, yeah, I think it's interesting concept. And if you like this idea, you can also make them side by side. It's also an interesting approach, okay? So just like we did with the others, I painted the base layer in acrylics, and once dry, I began with the oil pastels. First outlining everything in blue, then adding highlights in pink and dark brown. And once everything was complete, As always, I smudged the whole piece. I had three other compositions sketched out, but they all involved shoes, so I set them aside for another time because they didn't quite fit today's theme, okay? So these are the results of what we've done today. I hope you've learned something new today and that you have seen how it is possible to create expression, movement, drama, and a whole wide range of emotions without relying on realistic details. As always, keep on practicing and thank you for joining us.